Blood stained Amara's cream blouse, but she didn't care. Her hands framed Jae-hyuk's face in the darkness of the panic room, their bodies pressed so close she could feel his heart hammering against her chest. The dim emergency lights cast shadows across his sharp features, making him look almost vulnerable, something the world never got to see. "We're getting out of here," she whispered fiercely, her voice steady even as her hands trembled. His eyes, usually cold enough to freeze men twice his size, burned into hers with an intensity that stole her breath. "Not before I do this." He kissed her like he was drowning and she was air, like the world was ending and she was the only thing that mattered. His mouth moved against hers with desperate hunger, years of denial breaking apart in a single moment. Her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him impossibly closer. His hand gripped her waist, feeling every curve through the fabric, and a sound escaped her throat that was part gasp, part surrender. The blood from the gash on his arm smeared between them, warm and sticky, but neither pulled away. If you're ready for a forbidden romance that'll absolutely wreck you, subscribe now. You won't want to miss a single second of this. 48 hours earlier, late afternoon sunlight slanted through the windows of Jae-hyuk's compound. In the security office, his head of security shifted uncomfortably, tablet in hand. "Sir, we have a situation." Kwon Jae-hyuk didn't look up from the contracts spread across his mahogany desk. At 32, he'd perfected the art of stillness, the kind that made even dangerous men think twice. "Speak." "Min-jun's been making moves, asking questions." A pause. "About the secretary, the one with the photographic memory." Jae-hyuk's pen stopped mid-signature. His jaw tightened, the only visible crack in his icy composure. When he finally looked up, his security chief took an involuntary step back. "Double the guards around Amara," Jae-hyuk said, his voice soft and lethal. "If Min-jun even looks at her, I want to know about it." "Understood, boss." Alone again, Jae-hyuk stood and moved to the window. Min-jun, his half-brother, the dirty secret their father had kept hidden for years, the illegitimate son who'd always wanted everything Jae-hyuk had. If Min-jun knew about Amara, his hands clenched into fists, he couldn't let that happen, wouldn't. In the basement, the panic room sat silent and waiting. Reinforced steel walls, a 48-hour auto-lock system that couldn't be overridden once activated, not even by Jae-hyuk himself. Supplies for 7 days, a fortress designed to withstand anything. He'd never imagined he'd need it for this. Through the glass wall of his office, Jae-hyuk watched Amara Williams handle a crisis in the hallway. She stood with perfect posture in her tailored gray dress, the fabric hugging curves that made his chest tighten. Even from here, he could see the sharp intelligence in her, dark eyes as she faced down his accountant. "You're going to blame the software," Amara said, her voice carrying that perfect blend of professionalism and steel. "But we both know you've been skimming, so here's what's going to happen. You leave now, or I call Mr. Kwon." The accountant stammered something, face pale. "I'll take that as your resignation." She turned on her heel, dismissing him with the kind of authority that came naturally to her. Jae-hyuk's hand tightened on his whiskey glass until his knuckles went white. She was magnificent, brilliant, and completely off limits. 5 years ago, he'd watched his father tortured and murdered by rivals. They'd made him watch, unable to move, unable to save the man who'd raised him. Something had broken inside him that night, not just emotionally, but physically. Since then, nothing. No desire, no arousal, no ability to be with a woman. He'd tried everything. Doctors, escorts, relationships that ended after one awkward date. He was broken. And in his world, any weakness was a death sentence. But when he looked at Amara, God help him, he felt something. Not physically, not yet, but the way his chest constricted when she smiled, the way he memorized every detail about her without meaning to, the way he watched her like a starving man watches a feast he can never taste. It terrified him. Amara felt Jae-hyuk's gaze on her like a physical touch. Her skin heated, her pulse quickened in that traitorous way it always did when he looked at her. She'd been working for him for 18 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. Not that she was counting. The accountant scurried past her, still muttering apologies. Another man grateful for what she could do, never for who she was. She smiled, the practiced professional smile that never reached her eyes. Just doing my job. It was always the same. Her whole life, people had valued her for her brain, for her eidetic memory that could recall 43-page contracts verbatim, for her pattern recognition that bordered on precognition, for her ability to predict people's next moves like she was reading from a script. No one had ever just wanted her. The woman beneath the brilliance, the person behind the skills, especially not him. She walked to the eastern window and adjusted the blinds in a specific pattern. 3 quick, 2 slow, 1 quick. Across the compound, Ji-hoon, Jae-hyuk's most loyal guard, saw the signal and nodded. Standard check-in. If she ever missed it, he'd know something was wrong. What Amara didn't know was that Ji-hoon was already moving, already making quiet calls. The missed signal protocol she'd designed 6 months ago was elegant in its simplicity. Evacuate guard families to safe houses, alert trusted men, prepare for siege warfare, all without anyone noticing. What was that? Amara turned to find Jae-hyuk in the hallway, his presence filling the space like a storm about to break. He moved like a predator, all coiled, strength and perfect control. "Window signal," she said, keeping her voice level even though her heart was racing. "Check-in system I developed with Ji-hoon. If I don't signal by 6 p.m. daily, he knows something's wrong. Security measure." Jae-hyuk studied her with those dark, unreadable eyes. "You think of everything. That's why you hired me." But the way she looked at him, the way her breath caught when he stepped closer, said something entirely different. "That's not why you keep me close." He seemed to realize it too, because something flickered in his expression. Heat, hunger, fear, all tangled together. The moment stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. Then his phone buzzed, shattering it. He glanced down, jaw tightening. "Go home, Amara. It's late." "So should you." Their eyes met, held. The air crackled with tension that had been building for months. "Amara?" The building shook. The explosion came from the east wing, a deep, thunderous boom that rattled windows and set off every alarm in the compound. Amara stumbled, but Jae-hyuk's hand shot out, gripping her arm to steady her. "Get down!" he shouted. Before she could process what was happening, 2 more explosions erupted in rapid succession. South entrance, north gate, coordinated, strategic. This wasn't random. Gunfire erupted, the sharp crack of automatic weapons echoing through the hallways. Screams followed, men shouting orders. The acrid smell of smoke began filtering through the ventilation system. Jae-hyuk's face transformed from the man who'd been looking at her with barely concealed longing into the Ice King everyone feared. Cold, calculating, lethal. "How many entry points?" he demanded into his phone. 3 simultaneous breaches, sir. We're outnumbered. They came with at least 40 men. It's Min-jun's crew." Jae-hyuk's jaw clenched. Min-jun, of course. He grabbed Amara's hand, his grip firm and warm. "We're moving. Now." "What's happening?" "My half-brother just declared war." They ran. Amara's heels clicked against marble floors as Jae-hyuk pulled her toward the emergency stairwell. Behind them, the sounds of chaos grew louder. Shouting, gunfire, glass shattering. Men in tactical gear flooded the main entrance. "There!" someone shouted. "The boss and the secretary. 3rd floor." Bullets sprayed the wall behind them. Jae-hyuk yanked Amara around a corner, his body positioned between her and the threat, without him even thinking about it. Pure instinct. They burst into his office. The massive window overlooking the garden suddenly exploded inward in a spray of glass and smoke. Amara screamed as Jae-hyuk threw himself against her, covering her completely with his body. They hit the floor hard. Glass shards rained down like deadly confetti. She felt the solid weight of him, the coiled strength in his muscles, the thundering of his heart against her back. His arm wrapped around her waist, protective and possessive. His other hand cradled her head. "Stay behind me," he commanded, his breath hot against her ear. For 3 seconds, the world narrowed to just this: his heartbeat, his heat, the sandalwood and gunpowder scent of him. She dreamed of being this close to him, but never like this, never with death raining down around them. "We have to move," he said, pulling her to her feet. Her hands were shaking. His were steady. They ran through the smoke-filled office toward the private exit. More gunfire echoed behind them. Jae-hyuk's security team was fighting back, but they were clearly overwhelmed. "The panic room," Jae-hyuk said, pulling her toward the basement stairs. "It's our only option." They descended 2 flights at a dead run. Amara's mind was racing, cataloging everything. 40 men, 3 entry points. Min-jun leading the attack. This wasn't about territory or money. This was personal. The basement corridor stretched. Before them, dimly lit. At the end, the panic room door stood like a vault. Solid steel, fingerprint scanner, completely impenetrable once sealed. They were 20 feet away when another explosion rocked the building. The ceiling cracked. A support beam groaned ominously. "Run!" Jae-hyuk shouted. A section of the ceiling gave way behind them, sending debris and dust billowing through the corridor. Something sharp, a piece of exploding glass from a shattered light fixture, sliced across Jae-hyuk's upper arm. Blood bloomed instantly, soaking through his white shirt. He didn't even slow down. His hand slapped against the scanner. "Get in!" The heavy door began its slow, mechanical slide open. It felt like hours, seconds, eternity. Footsteps pounded down the stairs behind them, men's voices shouting, "There, the basement!" The door was halfway open. Jae-hyuk grabbed Amara and shoved her through the gap. She stumbled into the dim space, spinning around just as he squeezed through after her. "Close it!" he commanded the system. The door began sliding shut with agonizing slowness. Through the narrowing gap, Amara could see armed men pouring into the corridor, weapons raised. "Stop them!" Gunfire exploded. Bullets pinged off the steel door. Jae-hyuk pushed Amara behind him again, his bleeding arm extended as if he could shield her from the entire world. The door sealed with a heavy, final clang. Panic room sealed. 48-hour containment protocol initiated. Lock cannot be overridden from exterior or interior. Silence crashed over them like a wave. Just their ragged breathing and the muffled sounds of gunfire from somewhere far above. Emergency lights flickered on, dim, blue-tinted, casting everything in an eerie glow. The panic room was exactly as designed, 12 by 15 feet, reinforced walls, a single cot pushed against one wall, storage lockers containing MREs and bottled water, a chemical toilet behind a privacy screen, basic medical supplies in a red box mounted on the wall. 48 hours. They were trapped here for 48 hours. Alone. Amara's training kicked in before her emotions could catch up. She couldn't control what was happening outside, but she could control this. "Sit down," she commanded, her voice sharper than intended. "Now." Jae-hyuk blinked, surprised. He never took orders from anyone. But he sat. She grabbed the medical kit from the wall, already cataloging supplies in her mind. Gauze, antiseptic, surgical tape, pain medication. Her hands were shaking, but she forced them steady. Control. She needed control. "Take off your jacket," she said, "and your shirt." He shrugged out of his blood-soaked jacket, wincing. When he started unbuttoning his shirt, Amara's breath caught. She'd imagined this moment. God help her, she'd imagined it 1,000 times in the privacy of her thoughts. But never like this. Never with his blood staining her hands. Never with the sounds of battle raging somewhere. Above them, the shirt fell away. Scars mapped his torso like a history written in violence. A puckered bullet wound near his ribs. 3 parallel knife marks across his abdomen, smaller scars scattered across golden skin that spoke of a life lived on the knife's edge. He was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Amara. His voice was soft, uncertain, so unlike him. You're staring. She jerked her gaze to the wound on his arm, a deep gash, bleeding heavily but clean. No arterial damage. She could work with this. Her fingers trembled as she cleaned it. He hissed in pain, muscles tensing under her touch. I'm sorry, she whispered. His other hand caught her wrist gently, stopping her. She looked up, found his eyes waiting. Dark, intense, completely focused on her face. Don't be, he said quietly. You have the gentlest hands I've ever felt. The words hung between them, intimate and dangerous. Amara's pulse hammered in her throat as she held his gaze, acutely aware of every point of contact, her fingers on his skin, his hand circling her wrist, the heat radiating from his bare chest. She forced herself to look away, to focus on the wound. This is going to hurt. I've had worse. She knew. She'd read the medical reports, seen the scars that told stories he'd never share. But knowing and seeing were different things entirely. She worked in silence, cleaning the gash with antiseptic. His breathing hitched, but he didn't pull away, didn't flinch. She wrapped the bandage with careful precision, hyper-aware of the warmth of his skin, the way his muscles shifted under her fingertips, the sandalwood scent that clung to him even now. When she tied off the gauze, she sat back. They were trapped, alone. For 48 hours. The air between them felt charged, electric with possibility and danger. Jae-hyuk stood abruptly, grabbing his ruined shirt and moving to the far corner of the small room, as far from her as the 12 by 15 space would allow. He kept his back to her, shoulders rigid. Amara stared at him, frustration bubbling up. Are you seriously going to sit over there for 48 hours? It's safer this way. Safer for who? He didn't answer, just stood there like a statue, every line of his body screaming tension. She should let it go, should accept the distance. But fear and adrenaline were still coursing through her veins, and the walls she'd carefully constructed around her heart were cracking. We could have died out there, she said quietly, but we didn't. Because you threw yourself in front of me twice. His shoulders tensed further. You're my employee. It's my job to protect you. The word employee hit like a slap. After everything, after months of loaded glances and stolen moments and the electricity that sparked every time they were in the same room, he was reducing her to that. Anger flared, hot and sharp. Amara stood, crossing the small space until she was directly behind him. Look at me. Amara, look at me. He turned slowly. The expression on his face made her breath catch, raw and vulnerable, and so unlike the Ice King everyone feared. You're going to pretend what happened out there was just duty? Her voice shook despite her best efforts. You're going to ignore what's been happening between us for months? What's been happening, he said, voice rough, is that I've been watching my secretary. Nothing more. Liar. She stepped closer, close enough to see the pulse jumping in his throat. You've been watching me for months. I feel your eyes on me every single day. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending otherwise. Something flickered in his expression. Heat, hunger, fear all tangled together. And what if I have? His voice dropped, dangerous and low. What if I've been watching you, wanting you, thinking about you every goddamn second? What future could I possibly offer you? The vulnerability in those words cracked something open inside her chest. Why do you think you have nothing to offer? He turned away, jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. You don't know what you're asking. Then tell me. I can't. Why not? Because you'll look at me differently. The words exploded out of him. Because you'll see what I really am. Broken, worthless, not even half a man. Stop. She grabbed his uninjured arm, forcing him to face her. I don't know what you're talking about, but you're not broken. You're the strongest person I know. He laughed, but it was hollow, bitter. You have no idea. They stood there, inches apart, breathing hard. The panic room suddenly felt even smaller. The recycled air was thick, heavy with everything unsaid. Jae-hyuk moved first, stepping back, putting distance between them again. We should ration the supplies. Check what we have. The sudden shift to practicality was jarring, but Amara recognized it for what it was: retreat. He was pulling back, hiding behind that icy wall again. Fine. She could be patient. They had 48 hours. She moved to the storage lockers, taking inventory. 7 days of water, MREs for the same, basic amenities. She paused at the cot. 1 bed. You take it. I'll sleep on the floor. Don't be ridiculous. We can share like adults. The look he gave her could have melted steel. That's a terrible idea. Why? You know why. The heat in his voice sent shivers down her spine, but she kept her expression neutral. We need to conserve energy. Body heat. It's practical. Amara, unless you're afraid you can't control yourself around me? It was a challenge, deliberate and reckless. His eyes darkened, and for a moment she thought he might close the distance between them, might finally give in to whatever this was that burned between them. Instead, he grabbed one of the water bottles, taking a long drink. We should rest. It's going to be a long 2 days. Hours passed in tense silence. Amara tried to sleep on one end of the cot. Jae-hyuk sat on the floor in the corner, back against the wall. But sleep was impossible. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the explosion, felt his body covering hers, heard the gunfire. Can't sleep either? His voice came from the darkness. No. She sat up. How's your arm? Fine. Liar. A soft huff that might have been a laugh. You call me that a lot. Because you lie a lot. More silence. Then, how long have we been working together, Amara? The question surprised her. Why? Just answer. 18 months, 2 weeks, 3 days. The words came automatically. You know the exact count. Heat crept up her neck. I have an eidetic memory. I know everything in exact counts. Do you? It wasn't a question. He shifted in the darkness. I know everything about you, too. Your coffee. Order? Oat milk latte, extra shot, caramel drizzle, but only on Fridays. The way you tap your pen twice before signing documents. That you hum Aretha Franklin under your breath when you think no one's listening. The exact shade of your eyes when you're angry versus when you're amused. I know you, Amara. Every detail. Her breath caught. The rawness in his voice, the admission, it was more than he'd ever given her. Why? She whispered. Because I can't help myself. Because I'm obsessed. Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being my secretary and became the only thing I think about. The confession hung in the air between them, heavy and profound. Jae-hyuk. Don't. His voice cracked. Please don't say anything. We have 48 hours in this room and I'm barely holding on as it is. But Amara was done holding back. And I know you take your father's ring off before difficult meetings, Amara said softly, her voice cutting through the darkness, because you don't want him to see what you've become. I know you haven't slept more than 4 hours a night in 5 years. I know what happened to you the night he died. The silence that followed was suffocating. When Jae-hyuk finally spoke, his voice was hollow. What do you think you know? She moved off the cot, crossing the small space until she was standing in front of him. The emergency lights cast his face in shadow, but she could see the tension in every line of his body. I know you were there, she said gently. I know you watched. I know they made you watch while they... Her voice caught. I know something broke inside you that night, and I don't just mean emotionally. His hands were shaking. She could see them trembling in the dim light. How could you possibly? 10 months ago, a woman tried to blackmail you. She claimed she was pregnant with your child. Amara kept her voice steady, clinical, even though her heart was breaking for him. You paid her off quietly, made her disappear. But I investigated anyway because something felt wrong. I found out she'd tried the same scam on 3 other wealthy men. When I looked deeper into why you'd paid instead of just having her arrested. She paused, watching him. He'd gone completely still. The medical records, the escorts who suddenly stopped calling, the relationships that ended after one date with you making excuses about work. The pattern was clear once I knew what to look for. Stop. His voice was barely above a whisper. You're impotent, she said, the word gentle despite its weight. You have been since the night your father died. And you've been protecting this secret like it would destroy you if anyone knew. Jae-hyuk's breath came in short, sharp bursts. His eyes were wild, cornered. It would destroy me. Don't you understand? In this world, any weakness is a death sentence. My enemies would use it. My own men would question my strength, my ability to lead. Everything I've built would crumble because I'm not even... His voice broke. I'm not even a whole man. The pain in his words cut deeper than any blade. Amara reached for his hand, lacing her fingers through his. It's not a weakness. Your body is protecting you from trauma you never processed. It's a wound, Jae-hyuk. Not a failure. Not a flaw. A wound that needs healing. He stared at their joined hands like he couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. Why? The question came out broken. Why would you protect me? Why hide what you knew? This was it. The moment she'd been both dreading and craving for over a year. The moment where she laid herself bare. Because 2 years ago, she began, her voice trembling now too, you trusted me with your father's memorial arrangements. You let me into the private ceremony. Just me. No one else from the office. And I saw you grieve, really grieve. No masks, no Ice King, just a son who lost his father too soon, too violently. She took a shaky breath. You let me see the real you, even if just for a moment. You cried in front of me. You told me about how he used to take you fishing on Sundays, how he taught you to play chess, how his last words were telling you to survive no matter what. And You what? His voice was raw, desperate. The words stuck in her throat. Years of protecting herself, of keeping people at arm's length, of being valued only for what she could do. It all rose up, trying to choke her into silence. But they might die when that door opened, and she was done being afraid. I fell in love with you, she whispered. Tears streamed down her face, hot and unstoppable. Completely, hopelessly, stupidly in love with you. And it terrified me because... Her voice cracked. What if you only wanted me for my mind, for what I could do for you? I've spent my whole life being valued for being useful, for being smart, for solving problems. No one has ever just wanted me. Not the brain, not the skills, just me. She was losing control now, the words pouring out like a dam breaking. I stayed because protecting you, helping you, being near you, it was enough. It had to be enough, because I didn't know how to ask for more. I didn't know if I deserved more, if I was worth more than just being useful. The silence stretched between them, heavy with confession and vulnerability. Then Jae-hyuk moved. He closed the distance in 2 strides, his hands cupping her face with a gentleness that stole her breath. His thumbs wiped away her tears, his touch reverent, like she was something precious he was afraid of breaking. You think I value you for your brain? His voice was thick with emotion. Amara, your brilliance is extraordinary. You're the smartest person I've ever met. But I fell in love with the woman who brought me coffee on the anniversary of my father's death without me asking, who laughed at my terrible jokes when no one else did, who looked at me like I was more than the Ice King, more than the feared boss, more than the heir to a criminal empire. His forehead pressed against hers. I don't love you for what you can do. I love you for who you are, for your kindness hidden under professionalism, for the way you hum when you're concentrating, for your strength that doesn't need to announce itself, for the fact that you're the only person in the world who sees me, really sees me, and doesn't look away. She was sobbing now, years of armor cracking open, leaving her raw and exposed. I've wanted you every single day for a year, he continued, his voice breaking. Wanted what I thought I could never have. Hated myself for wanting you when I have nothing to give. When I'm broken in ways that matter, when I can't even... Stop, she whispered, pulling back to look at him. Say that again. What? That you love me. Say it again. His eyes searched hers, dark and intense, and full of everything he'd been holding back. I love you, Amara Williams. I'm completely, hopelessly, stupidly in love with you. Then kiss me. For one heartbeat, he hesitated. Then his mouth was on hers. The kiss was tentative at first, testing, asking permission, like he was afraid she might disappear. But when she melted into him, when her hands gripped his shoulders and pulled him closer, it transformed into something desperate, consuming. Years of denial and longing poured into one perfect moment. His hand slid into her hair, angling her head to deepen the kiss. Hers roamed across his bare shoulders, feeling the heat of his skin, the strength in his muscles, the rapid beat of his heart. They kissed until they were breathless, until the world narrowed to just this, just them, just now. When they finally broke apart, foreheads touching, both were shaking. Amara, he breathed. Her name was reverence and wonder and fear all tangled together. She couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Her lips felt swollen, her body alive with sensation she'd only dreamed about. Jae-hyuk's hands were still in her hair, his breathing as ragged as hers. We shouldn't, he started, but she cut him off with another kiss. This one was fiercer, more demanding. She poured everything into it, every lonely night, every stolen glance, every moment she'd wanted him and thought she never could have him. When they broke apart this time, he was the one who looked wrecked. The cot, she whispered. Sit with me. They moved together, settling on the narrow bed. Amara's heart hammered as Jae-hyuk's arm wrapped around her shoulders, pulling her against his side. She fit perfectly there, her head tucked under his chin, her hand resting over his heart. Hours seemed to pass in comfortable silence, but eventually, reality crept back in. We can't do this, Jae-hyuk said quietly, his voice tight. I can't give you what you need. Amara felt him start to pull away, emotionally, even if he didn't move physically. The walls coming back up. She sat up, turning to face him. You don't get to decide what I need. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From yourself? Frustration bled into her voice. You kissed me like that and now you're retreating. That's not fair, Jae-hyuk. His jaw clenched. Life isn't fair. I'm broken, Amara. Physically broken. What kind of relationship can we have when I can't even... He couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't say the words. She moved before she could think better of it, kneeling in front of him on the floor, taking his face in her hands. Listen to me. I don't love you for what you can or can't do physically. I love you, your mind, your strength, the way you've survived unspeakable trauma and still built an empire, the way you protect the people you care about. That's not enough. It's everything, she insisted. If your body never responds again, it doesn't change how I feel. We'll figure it out together. There are ways, options, possibilities. But pushing me away because you're afraid, that's the only thing I won't accept. He stared at her, emotions warring across his face. You don't understand what you're asking. Then help me understand. I can't even touch you without feeling like a fraud, he said, voice breaking. Every time I want you, and God, I want you all the time. It's followed by this crushing shame because I know it won't lead anywhere. I know my body won't cooperate. I'm afraid to even try because I can't handle failing with you, not you." The vulnerability in his admission made her chest ache. "You haven't failed. You won't fail. You don't know that. I know you." She moved back to the cot, sitting beside him. "I know you're afraid. I know this is terrifying. But you're not alone in this anymore. You don't have to carry it by yourself." He looked at her then, really looked, and something shifted in his expression. "How are you? So strong?" A bitter laugh escaped her. "I'm not. I'm terrified too." "Of what?" "Of this." She gestured between them. "Of letting someone take care of me. Of letting go of control even for a second." She took a breath, forcing the words out. "I've spent so long keeping everything together, anticipating every problem, staying 3 steps ahead. I don't know how to just be, how to not manage and plan and control every variable." Jae-hyuk's hand found hers, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. "Then we'll learn together. You teach me it's okay to be vulnerable. I'll teach you it's okay to let someone else be strong sometimes." The tenderness in his voice nearly undid her. "What if I want to try something?" he asked quietly. "Try what?" "To see if, with you, if my body might respond differently." Her heart skipped. "We don't have to. I want to." His eyes met hers, dark and earnest. "I need to know, but I'm afraid of disappointing you, of confirming what I already believe about myself." She leaned in, kissing him softly. "Then we go slow. And if nothing happens, it's okay. We'll figure it out together. There's no pressure, no expectations, just us." He pulled her onto his lap in one smooth motion, and she gasped. Her hands found his shoulders as his settled on her waist, fingers spanning her curves. "You're beautiful," he murmured against her throat. "So goddamn beautiful it hurts to look at you sometimes." His lips traced her jawline, her neck, her collarbone, soft, reverent kisses that made her shiver. Her hands slid into his hair, holding him close as sensation washed over her. "Jae-hyuk," she breathed. His hands explored cautiously, up her sides, across her back, finally cupping her face to kiss her again. This kiss was different, slower, deeper, like he was memorizing the taste of her, the feel of her. When his hands moved to her waist again, his thumbs brushed the underside of her breasts through her blouse. She arched into the touch with a soft moan that made his breath hitch. Then he froze. "What?" she asked, pulling back to look at him. His eyes were wide, almost disbelieving. "I can feel..." "Feel what?" "Arousal." The word came out strangled. Actual arousal. "For the first time in 5 years, I can actually..." He broke off, pressing his forehead to her shoulder. His whole body was trembling. Amara's eyes filled with tears. "It's because you feel safe, because you trust me." "It's you," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Only you. My body only responds to you." She held him as he shook, as 5 years of believing himself broken crumbled under the weight of this one moment of hope. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and let me know in the comments which moment got you most. Don't go anywhere. This story is about to get even more intense. They stayed like that, wrapped around each other, kissing and touching with a gentleness that felt sacred. He explored her curves with trembling hands. She traced the scars on his chest with reverent fingers. Neither pushed for more. This was enough. This discovery, this connection, this moment of healing. "We should rest," he finally whispered against her hair. "We still have hours until the door opens." They lay down together on the narrow cot, her back to his chest, his arms secure around her waist. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Amara felt safe enough to let go of control. And for the first time in 5 years, Jae-hyuk felt like maybe he wasn't broken after all. Amara woke to the sound of electronic humming. For a disorienting moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came flooding back. The attack, the panic room, Jae-hyuk's confession, the kiss that had changed everything. She was still wrapped in his arms, his chest rising and falling steadily against her back. The comfort of it was almost painful. The humming sound came again. She lifted her head, squinting in the dim emergency lighting. The tablet mounted on the wall had flickered to life, its screen glowing blue in the darkness. "Jae-hyuk," she whispered, nudging him gently. "Wake up." He came awake instantly, every muscle tensing. 5 years of living on the edge had trained him well. "What's wrong?" "The tablet, it's booting up." They scrambled off the cot, moving to the wall-mounted screen. The emergency power cell had activated, a backup system designed to restore partial functionality after 24 hours. Jae-hyuk's fingers flew across the interface, pulling up the security feeds. What they saw made Amara's blood run cold. The compound was destroyed. Bodies littered the grounds. Jae-hyuk's men, Min-jun's men, the aftermath of a battle that had clearly been brutal. Min-jun's remaining forces had set up a perimeter around the building, weapons ready, waiting. "They're still here," Jae-hyuk said, voice tight, waiting for the door to open. Amara's mind was already racing, analyzing patterns, calculating odds. How many? At least 20, maybe more. He scrolled through different camera angles. "They've fortified all the exits. We're surrounded." Then he found the video message. It was queued up deliberately, waiting for them to find it. Jae-hyuk's finger hovered over the play button. "Whatever this is," Amara said quietly, "we face it together." He pressed play. Min-jun's face filled the screen, smiling with cold satisfaction. Even through the recording, Amara could see the resemblance, the same sharp cheekbones, the same intense eyes. But where Jae-hyuk's face held strength, tempered by pain, Min-jun's held only bitterness. "Hello, brother." Min-jun's voice was smooth, almost pleasant. "Yes, I know you can access this. By now you've realized this attack was never about territory or business. It was about you, about taking everything that matters to you." Jae-hyuk's jaw clenched so hard Amara could hear his teeth grinding. "Our father never acknowledged me," Min-jun continued, his smile fading into something uglier. "Kept me as his dirty little secret while you got everything. The family name, the business, the respect. He denied I was his son publicly, wouldn't even look at me at family gatherings. Do you know what that does to a child? To know your father is right there, but you're not allowed to call him father?" Despite everything, Amara felt a flicker of sympathy, but it died when Min-jun's expression turned venomous. "So I've been watching, waiting, and I finally found your weakness, her." The camera angle shifted, showing footage of Amara from weeks ago, walking through the compound. "The brilliant secretary you can't stop watching, the woman you think no one else notices. But I notice everything, brother. I always have." Amara's stomach dropped. "When that door opens in—" Min-jun checked his watch. "Approximately 18 hours my men will kill you. Slowly, painfully. The way father should have died, and they'll take her." He leaned closer to the camera. "She'll use that extraordinary mind to build my empire. I'll finally have what you've always had, power, respect, father's legacy, and the woman smart enough to make it all work." The screen went black. Silence filled the panic room, heavy and suffocating. "Brother," Amara finally said, "he's your half-brother." Jae-hyuk's face had gone completely pale. "I found records of my father's affair 8 months ago," Amara said, her mind already working through implications. "A son born 3 years before you. I suspected he might eventually make a move, but I couldn't confirm his identity. I didn't know it was Min-jun." She pulled up more footage, finding the files she needed. "Look, his men have specific orders." She played another clip, Min-jun addressing his team before the attack. "The woman must be taken alive and unharmed. She's worth more than the territory." The weight of it sank in. They had 18 hours. Then Min-jun's men would come for them. But instead of panic, Amara felt something else clicking into place. the familiar sensation of pieces aligning, patterns emerging. Her gift had always been seeing 3 steps ahead. Now she needed to see 10. "The light signal," she said suddenly. "I missed yesterday's 6 p.m. signal." Jae-hyuk turned to her. "What does that mean?" "It means Ji-hoon knows something's wrong. It means he's already initiated the emergency protocols I established 6 months ago." "What protocols?" Amara moved to the tablet, pulling up encrypted files she'd hidden in the security system. "When I developed the check-in system, I also developed contingency plans for various threat levels. If the signal is missed, Ji-hoon has standing orders to discreetly evacuate all guard families to pre-designated safe houses, alert your most loyal men, and prepare for siege response." Jae-hyuk stared at her. "You planned for this? For an attack on this scale?" "I planned for everything." She met his eyes. "It's what I do, what I've always done. But they can't break in. The panic room is designed to be impenetrable even from the outside. My own men can't override the 48-hour lock." "Exactly." A plan was forming, sharp and clear, which means we use the time we have left. Min-jun thinks he has us trapped and helpless. We use that assumption against him. She pulled up more files. Financial records she'd been compiling for months. "Min-jun's been embezzling from your father's old partners. I have dates, amounts, routing numbers, account, numbers. 47 separate transactions over the last 2 years." "How do you have this?" "I've been building insurance against every potential threat to you for the last year," she said simply. "Min-jun was always on my radar as a possibility. I just didn't know it would come to this." She turned to face him fully. "We don't need physical evidence. I have it all memorized, every transaction, every detail. When that door opens, I can recite it all, make him think we have proof stored elsewhere, make him believe his own men might turn on him if they knew he'd been stealing." Jae-hyuk was looking at her with something close to awe. "You've been protecting me from threats I didn't even know existed." "We protect each other," she said softly. "That's what love is." He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. "You're magnificent. Absolutely magnificent." She let herself lean into him, drawing strength from his presence. "There's something else. 3 of Min-jun's men. I identified them weeks ago as being disgruntled with his leadership. I've been cultivating relationships, offering them information in exchange for potential loyalty." "You turned his own men?" "Not turned, just planted seeds." She pulled back to look at him. "Seeds that might bloom at exactly the right moment. When the door opens." "When the door opens," she confirmed. They spent the next hours strategizing, planning every word, every move. Amara's mind worked through scenarios, calculating probabilities, adjusting for variables. It was what she did best: control the controllable, prepare for the unpredictable. But underneath the planning, fear gnawed at her. Min-jun wouldn't just give up, wouldn't just walk away. Men like him never did. "What if it's not enough?" she whispered during a quiet moment. "What if he's willing to die just to destroy you?" Jae-hyuk tilted her chin up, his eyes fierce. "Then we face it together. Whatever happens when that door opens, we face it side by side." The hours crawled by with agonizing slowness. They'd gone over the plan a dozen times, accounted for every variable Amara could think of. But the closer they got to the 48-hour mark, the more the walls seemed to close in. Jae-hyuk paced the small space like a caged animal. The recycled air felt thick, oppressive. The temperature had dropped, whether from the ventilation system struggling or the reality of what waited outside. Amara couldn't tell. "Stop pacing," she finally said. "You're making me nervous." He stopped, turning to face her. "I've been thinking." "That's dangerous." A ghost of a smile crossed his face, but it didn't reach his eyes. "The ventilation system. I examined it while you were cataloging the MREs. You could fit through the ducts." Amara's stomach dropped. No. It connects to the main building's air system. You could escape before the door opens. Ji-hoon would find you. Absolutely not. She stood, crossing to him. We've been through this. Amara, if this goes wrong, it won't. You don't know that. His voice rose, frustration and fear bleeding through. If my men don't arrive in time, if Min-jun doesn't fall for the bluff, you'll be taken. Or worse. I can't. His voice cracked. I won't let that happen to you. She saw it then. The same fear that had been eating at him for hours. The same terror that had nothing to do with his own death and everything to do with hers. Tell me why you really want me to go, she said quietly. He turned away, shoulders rigid. Because I love you. Because the thought of him touching you, taking you, using that brilliant mind for his own purposes while I'm dead and can't protect you, it's unbearable. And you think I could live with myself? Her voice shook. You think I could crawl through those ducts and leave you here to die alone? That I could build a life knowing I abandoned you? You'd be alive, I'd be destroyed. The words exploded out of her. Don't you understand? You're not just someone I work for. You're not just someone I love. You're the first person who's ever seen me, really seen me, and not just what I can do. The first person who's ever made me want to stop controlling everything and just feel. She moved closer, her hands finding his face, forcing him to look at her. The old Amara would have refused out of stubbornness, out of need to control the situation herself. But she'd been learning, growing. I understand you want to protect me, she said, her voice gentler now. I do, and I love you for it. But we're partners now, equals. We face this together or not at all. Jae-hyuk's eyes shone with unshed tears. If we survive this, if we actually make it out of here alive, he took a shaky breath. Marry me. Not today, not tomorrow in the heat of danger, but someday, when this is over and we're safe. Be my partner in everything, in business, in life, in whatever comes next. The proposal was imperfect, desperate, and absolutely perfect. Yes, she whispered. Now stop trying to get rid of me. She kissed him then, and he responded with the kind of desperation that came from staring death in the face. His hands tangled in her hair, hers gripped his shoulders, and for a few precious moments the world narrowed to just this. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. 4 hours left, Jae-hyuk said quietly, checking the timer on the door mechanism. 4 hours until everything changed. Amara's mind was still racing, still calculating, but underneath the strategy and planning was something else, something she'd been pushing down since they'd first kissed. Want. Jae-hyuk, she said softly, if we only have 4 more hours. I don't want to spend them planning and worrying. He understood immediately. She could see it in the way his eyes darkened, the way his breathing changed. Are you sure? His voice was rough. Because once we start, I don't know if I can stop. Then don't stop. He pulled her back to the cot, his movements gentle despite the hunger in his eyes. When he kissed her this time, it was different. Slower, deeper, loaded with intention. I need you to know something, he whispered against her lips. I'm terrified, not of dying, of failing you, of my body betraying me at the worst possible moment. She cupped his face, making him look at her. Then let me lead. Let me take care of you for once. The suggestion made him tense, old habits of control dying hard. But then he nodded, a small surrender that meant everything. Amara guided him to sit on the cot, then straddled his lap. Her hands framed his face as she kissed him thoroughly, taking her time. His hands settled on her waist, fingers digging into her curves. She tried to take control of the rhythm, the pace, but he gently caught her wrists. Let me, he said softly. Just let me take care of you. The role reversal struck her then. how hard it was to surrender control, even in this, especially in this. Her whole life had been about staying 3 steps ahead, managing every variable, never trusting anyone else to handle things. But this was Jae-hyuk. And if she couldn't trust him, what were they even doing? "Okay," she whispered. He kissed her slowly, reverently, his hands exploring with a gentleness that made her tremble. When his fingers found the buttons of her blouse, he paused. "Tell me if you want me to stop. Don't you dare stop." He worked the buttons open one by one, his eyes never leaving hers. When the fabric fell away, his breath caught. "You're perfect," he murmured. "So goddamn perfect." His hands were shaking as they traced her curves, the swell of her breasts, the dip of her waist, the flare of her hips. Every touch was reverent, worshipful, like she was something precious he was afraid of breaking. When he pulled her closer, skin against skin, she felt it, the unmistakable evidence of his arousal, hard and insistent against her. "Jae-hyuk," she gasped. "I know." His voice was thick with emotion and wonder. "It's you, only you. My body only works with you." Tears slipped down her face, happy tears, overwhelmed tears. 5 years he'd believed himself broken, and now, in this moment, he was whole. They moved together slowly, carefully. There was fumbling, nervous laughter, whispered reassurances. It wasn't perfect or smooth, but it was real, raw, honest. And when they finally came together completely, when he was inside her and they were as close as 2 people could be, Amara felt something shift in her chest, the last of her walls crumbling, the final piece of control releasing. She wasn't managing this, wasn't planning or strategizing or thinking 3 steps ahead. She was just feeling, just being, just loving him with everything she had. "I love you," she whispered against his mouth. "I love you so much." "I love you too." His hands cradled her face, thumbs wiping away her tears. "You saved me." In every way a person can be saved. They moved together, slow and intimate, taking their time despite the clock ticking down. This wasn't about urgency or desperation. This was about connection, healing. 2 broken people making each other whole. Afterward, they lay tangled together on the narrow cot, skin damp with sweat, heart still racing. That was... Jae-hyuk couldn't finish. "Everything," Amara completed. He held her close, pressing kisses to her temple, her cheek, her shoulder. "No matter what happens when that door opens, this was worth it. You were worth everything." The timer showed 2 hours remaining. 2 hours until they faced Min-jun. 2 hours until everything changed. They dressed in silence, the weight of what was coming pressing down on them. Amara's hands were steady as she buttoned her blouse, her mind already shifting into the cold, analytical mode she'd perfected over years. She could compartmentalize. She had to. But when Jae-hyuk pulled on his ruined shirt, wincing as the fabric touched his bandaged arm, something in her chest tightened. "Let me," she said, moving to help him. He let her fix his collar, smooth the fabric. Her hands lingered on his chest, feeling his heartbeat under her palm. "Whatever happens," she said quietly, "I don't regret any of this." "Amara," the mechanical voice cut him off. 1 hour until door unsealing." They both froze. 1 hour. Jae-hyuk pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "I need you to promise me something. If this goes wrong, if Min-jun doesn't buy the bluff, you run. You find a way out and you run." "I won't leave you. Promise me." She pulled back to look at him. "I promise I'll do whatever it takes for both of us to survive. That's the only promise I'm making." He looked like he wanted to argue, but the timer ticked down another minute. They spent the remaining time going over every detail one more time. Amara recited the financial crimes from memory, her eidetic recall perfect as always. Jae-hyuk outlined the psychological approach, how to position the information, when to reveal each piece, how to exploit Min-jun's need for approval. 30 minutes, Jae-hyuk said, checking the display. Amara's heart was racing now, adrenaline flooding her system. She forced herself to breathe slowly, evenly. Control. She needed control, but her hands were shaking. Jae-hyuk took them in his, squeezing gently. "Hey, look at me." She met his eyes. "You're the most brilliant person I've ever met," he said. "You've been 3 steps ahead of everyone your whole life. Trust that, trust yourself." "I'm terrified," she admitted. "So am I, but we do this together." The timer hit 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5. They stood together, hand in hand, facing the door. Amara's mind ran through every scenario, every possibility, every potential outcome. But underneath the strategy was simple, primal fear. What if it wasn't enough? What if they died here? 2 minutes until door unsealing. "I love you," Jae-hyuk said. "I love you too." 1 minute. The seconds crawled by, each one an eternity. Then, 48-hour containment complete, door unsealing. The heavy steel door began its slow slide open with a mechanical groan. Light flooded in, artificial harsh fluorescent light from the basement corridor. Shadows moved beyond the widening gap. The door was halfway open when Min-jun's men rushed in, tactical gear and weapons raised. 12 of them, spreading out in practiced formation. But behind them, more shadows, more movement. Ji-hoon and Jae-hyuk's loyal guards stormed in right behind Min-jun's men, weapons drawn. 15 strong, faces grim with determination. "Drop your weapons!" Ji-hoon commanded. "You drop yours!" One of Min-jun's men shouted back. Guns pointed everywhere, fingers on triggers. One wrong move and this would become a bloodbath. Then Min-jun himself walked in, slow and confident, a smile playing at his lips. He was handsome in the same way Jae-hyuk was, but where Jae-hyuk's face held strength tempered by pain, Min-jun's held only bitterness carved into cruelty. "Hello, brother." His voice was smooth, pleasant, like they were meeting for coffee instead of a standoff. And the famous Amara Williams, even more beautiful in person than in surveillance photos. Amara felt Jae-hyuk tense beside her, but she stepped forward before he could speak. "Min-jun." She kept her voice calm, analytical. "You want someone with a brain? Someone who can build an empire? Then answer me this. Why should I work for a man who's been stealing from his own father's partners?" The smile faltered, just slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you?" She took another step forward, aware of every gun in the room tracking her movement. March 14th, 2023. You transferred 500 million won from the Busan shipment to your Cayman Islands account. May the 2nd, same year, another 300 million from the Tokyo deal. June 17th, 200 million from the Singapore operation. Min-jun's face was carefully neutral now, but she could see the calculation in his eyes. "Should I continue?" Amara asked. "I have 47 separate transactions memorized. Dates, amounts, routing numbers, account numbers. Every single theft over the last 2 years." "You're bluffing." But his voice had lost some of its confidence. "You have no proof." "Don't I?" She gestured to 3 specific men in Min-jun's group. "Your own men know you've been skimming. Park, Chen, Nakamura. How do you think I got access to the account numbers? Some of them have been feeding me information for months." The 3 men she'd named shifted uncomfortably. One of them, Park, actually lowered his weapon slightly. Min-jun's face darkened with rage. "It doesn't matter. You think you're clever? I have contingencies." He pulled out his phone, showing them a timer counting down. 7 minutes remaining. "Dead man switch," he said, smile returning. "If I don't check in every hour, my men kill the families of every guard loyal to my dear brother. Ji-hoon's 8-year-old daughter, Park's pregnant wife, Lee's elderly mother who needs her medication every 6 hours. Ji-hoon's face went white. Several other guards tensed, fear flashing across their faces. "You want to test me?" Min-jun continued. "You win here, brother, but innocent people pay the price. Their blood on your hands. So here's what happens. You die. Amara comes with me, and everyone else lives. Or you resist, and children become orphans. Wives become widows. Mothers die alone and afraid. He looked directly at Jae-hyuk. Choose. You have 6 minutes. The room fell silent, the weight of the choice pressing down on everyone. Jae-hyuk's face had drained of color. Amara could see the calculation in his eyes. Could he sacrifice innocent people to save himself? Could he live with that? But Amara was already smiling. You mean Ji-hoon's daughter, she said calmly, who's been at a secure safe house in Busan for the past 36 hours? Or Park's wife who's currently in Jeju under armed protection? Or Lee's mother who's enjoying an all-expenses-paid spa retreat in Sokcho with her medication regimen carefully maintained? Min-jun's confidence cracked like ice. What? The moment Ji-hoon received my missed signal 48 hours ago, he initiated evacuation protocols I established 6 months ago. She took another step forward. Every single family member of every loyal guard was moved to secure, undisclosed locations within 12 hours of the attack. Your dead man's switch triggers nothing but empty apartments and disconnected phone lines. She smiled, cold and sharp. I told you I think 3 steps ahead. I always have. Your contingency was my contingency. Your leverage is gone. Min-jun's face contorted with fury and desperation. The careful control shattered, revealing the damaged, bitter man beneath. You think you've won? He snarled. You think? In one fluid motion, he pulled a gun from his jacket, aiming directly at Jae-hyuk's chest. If I can't have father's legacy, neither can you. The gunshot was deafening in the confined space. But the bullet never reached Jae-hyuk. Ji-hoon's shot hit Min-jun's shoulder a split second before he could fire. The gun flew from Min-jun's hand, clattering across the concrete floor. He screamed, clutching his bleeding shoulder, dropping to his knees. Chaos erupted. Min-jun's men hesitated, caught between loyalty and self-preservation. The 3 Amara had named immediately dropped their weapons, hands raised. The others followed suit within seconds, seeing the odds had turned completely against them. Jae-hyuk's guards swarmed forward, zip-tying hands, securing weapons, clearing the room with practiced efficiency. Jae-hyuk crossed to his half-brother slowly, each step deliberate. Amara watched him, her heart in her throat, wondering what he would do. She'd seen the darkness in him, knew what he was capable of when pushed. He knelt beside Min-jun, who was still clutching his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. You wanted father's legacy? Jae-hyuk's voice was quiet, almost gentle. You wanted to prove you were worthy? He should have acknowledged me. Min-jun spat, tears mixing with sweat on his face. I was his son too, his firstborn, but he denied me. Kept me in the shadows like I was something shameful. You're right, Jae-hyuk said, and Min-jun's eyes widened in surprise. Father failed you. He failed both of us in different ways. He failed me by dying and leaving me to become this. He gestured to himself. And he failed you by never giving you what every child deserves, to be claimed, to be loved, to belong. He stood looking down at his brother with something that might have been pity. I'm sorry he never acknowledged you. I'm sorry you grew up in the shadows. That wasn't fair. That wasn't right. Then why? Min-jun's voice broke. But this, Jae-hyuk gestured to the carnage, the destruction. This isn't strength. This isn't proving yourself worthy. This is pain you never dealt with, poisoning everything you touch. And I won't become what you are. I won't let his failures make me into a monster. He nodded to Ji-hoon. Get him medical attention, then turn him over to the police with all the evidence Amara compiled. Let the courts decide his fate. No, Min-jun struggled as guards hauled him to his feet. This isn't over. You think you've won? I'll destroy you. It's over, Amara said quietly, stepping forward. Her voice carried absolute certainty. You lost the moment you underestimated what love makes people capable of, what it makes them willing to fight for. She looked directly into Min-jun's eyes. You wanted your father's love so badly you became the thing he feared most. Someone who destroys instead of builds. But Jae-hyuk? He learned the opposite lesson. He learned that real strength isn't control or fear. It's vulnerability. It's trust. It's loving someone enough to let them see you broken and believing they'll stay anyway. Min-jun was still screaming threats as they dragged him away, but his words had lost their power. Ji-hoon approached, bowing deeply. Sir, Miss Williams, I'm sorry we couldn't breach sooner. The panic room was designed exactly as it should be, Jae-hyuk said. You did everything right, Ji-hoon. The families? All safe, all accounted for. Miss Williams' protocols worked perfectly. Jae-hyuk turned to Amara, something like wonder in his eyes. You saved us. All of us. We saved each other, she corrected softly. The cleanup took hours. Police arrived, the ones on Jae-hyuk's payroll, the ones who would file the reports his way. Paramedics treated the wounded, bodies were removed, evidence was cataloged. Through it all, Jae-hyuk kept Amara close, his hand never leaving hers. Finally, as dawn broke over Seoul, they stood in what remained of his office. The windows were shattered, furniture destroyed, but the view of the city remained. It's over, Jae-hyuk said quietly. No. Amara leaned into him. It's just beginning. 2 weeks later, Amara walked into the rebuilt office wearing a burgundy power suit that hugged every curve. The sapphire engagement ring on her finger caught the afternoon light, sending prisms dancing across the walls. The nameplate on the door read, Kwon Jae-hyuk and Amara Williams, partners, not secretary, not employee, partner. A television mounted on the wall showed the news. Min-jun Kwon sentenced to 15 years on charges of embezzlement, attempted murder, and racketeering. In related news, Kwon Jae-hyuk announces major restructuring of family business toward legitimate operations, establishing the Kwon Foundation for Trauma Recovery and Victims of Violence. Jae-hyuk stood from his desk as she entered, his smile genuine and warm, so different from the Ice King who'd ruled through fear. Mrs. Kwon, he murmured, crossing to her. Not for 2 more months, she corrected, but she was smiling too. And I'm keeping Williams in my name. Amara Williams Kwon, then. He lifted her effortlessly onto the desk, stepping between her legs. His hands settled on her waist like they belonged there, because they did. I don't care what you're called as long as you're mine. She looped her arms around his neck, pulling him closer. Ours. We belong to each other. He kissed her deeply, thoroughly. A kiss that promised forever. When they broke apart, she traced the line of his jaw, memorizing the feel of him. My obsession, she whispered. My salvation, he answered. The woman who taught me that being vulnerable isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing a person can do. And you taught me I don't have to control everything to be worthy of love, that I'm enough just as I am. They kissed again, and this time it was playful, joyful. 2 people who'd found each other in the darkest circumstances and built something unbreakable. Through the window behind them, Seoul glowed in the afternoon sun. Construction crews were rebuilding the damaged parts of the compound. Life was moving forward. They'd survived the panic room, survived Min-jun's attack, survived their own fears and insecurities, and now they were building something new, together. I love you, Jae-hyuk said against her lips. I love you too. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, 2 broken people held each other and knew they were finally, completely whole. We've come to the end of this story. If this story absolutely wrecked you in the best way, subscribe for more forbidden romances. Comment which moment made you feel the most. The first kiss? The confrontation? When they finally came together? I read every one. Until next time, remember, the best love stories are the ones where 2 broken people make each other whole. The screen faded to black, but their story, the story of the impotent mafia boss and his endowed secretary who found healing in each other's arms, would continue long after the final frame. Some love stories are written in boardrooms and contracts. Others are forged in panic rooms and blood. But the ones that last? Those are built on vulnerability, trust, and two people brave enough to be broken together. The end.